Hello everyone, my name is Hannah. Welcome to a new video. Today's video is going to be the mid-year book freakout tag. So yeah, basically this tag is to help you kind of reflect on your reading so far this year. You've made it 6 months into the year, and we're going to talk about some of the best books, some of the most surprising books, some of the most beautiful books. So far this year, through the end of June, I have managed to read 82 books, which is wild because that is more than I read in some previous years. Like, that's crazy to me that we're only halfway through the year and I've already read that many books. My Goodreads reading goal is at 100 books, so I'm pretty confident that I can reach that this year. I might up it to like 150, I don't know. But yeah, 82 books through June. I am just so pleased with that. So there are 13 questions here that I'm going to go over, and question number 1 is the best book of the year so far. So I'm gonna try really hard not to reuse all of the same books a lot, but I do know that some of my answers for some of these questions are gonna be the same, but nobody is going to be surprised by this. You're already like, just hold it up, Hannah, we already know. But my best book of the year so far is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. Typically, if a Sarah J. Maas book releases in a year, that's my favorite book of the year. Like, almost every single time. I just love her writing so much, and her stories, her characters. I get so connected to them. So yes, this is not a surprise to anyone that this is my best book of the year so far. I will be surprised if anything does beat this, like in the second half of the year, but I'm not saying it can't happen. But yeah, I just really enjoyed this. It's a definite 5 out of 5. I'm so eager for the third book in this series. I don't know when it's going to be released. She said maybe 18 months to 2 years, and that just sounds like actual hell to wait that long. But yes, I absolutely love this one. Hunt and Bryce and Rune. Again, nobody is surprised that this is my best book of the year so far. The next question is the best sequel, and for sequel, I just went with like a continuing book in the series, not necessarily just the second book. And for that, my best sequel was The Reckoning, which is in the Zodiac Academy. This is book 3, and I think I'm gonna say that this one is my favorite. I go back and forth between if this one or if book 5 is my favorite, Cursed Fates. I still can't decide really. Like, every time I'm like, no, this one's my favorite, I'm like, but Cursed Fates. So I'm gonna go with this one for this tag. But yeah, I really loved the Zodiac Academy series. I just binged the whole thing. I don't know that I would necessarily recommend that because these books are really thick and there is a lot that goes on in them. And I definitely, when I finished all of the books, I felt a little bit burned out from reading them. Like, it was one of those situations though where like I don't regret it, because I would finish a book and then I'd be like, how am I not supposed to immediately pick up the next book? Like, it just ends on such a cliffhanger that I can't not pick up the next book. But yeah, this one was so good. It was 5 stars. I really love the Zodiac Academy series. I have vlogs that are all spoiler free, so if you want to go back and watch those, you certainly can. But yeah, this was definitely the best sequel if I'm not using House of Sky and Breath. The next question is a new release that you really want to read, but you just haven't read it yet. And I am going to do 2 books for this answer, for this question. So the first one is Seasonal Fears by Shauna Maguire. This is one of my most anticipated releases of this year. It is the sequel to Middle Game. I thought that this was still following the same characters from Middle Game, but I don't think it is. These are different characters. So this is actually just a companion novel to Middle Game, but I'm still really excited to read this one, but I want to reread Middle Game first, so that world is like still fresh in my head, and then I'll jump into this one, even though there is a companion, so I don't need the information necessarily from Middle Game. But I want to reread that, which is why I haven't read this yet. I'm really hoping that I can get to it in July, but if I can't, for sure in August I will be reading Middle Game and this book, because I'm just so hyped for this one, and I love Shauna Maguire's writing so much. And this world, like, it is incredible. She's such a genius when she writes. Like, it's so good. So I would definitely say this is one. I don't remember when it was released. May. It was released in May. This is an ARC copy that I won in a Goodreads giveaway. So I have this copy of it. But yeah, I really want to get to this one very soon. And then the other new release that I haven't read yet, but I really want to get to, is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I love Riley Sager's books. I haven't not enjoyed a single one of his books. I've read all 5, I think there are, of them. And even Survive the Night, which a lot of people really, really hated, I enjoyed it. Like, I had a good time. Is it the best thriller I've ever read? No, but it was fun in the moment. And that's kind of what I'm hoping from this book. I'm not expecting anything like crazy wild, like my new favorite thriller of all time, but I just like his writing style. And I just think they're really, really fun, fast reads. And this one just came out, I think, at the end of June. So I haven't picked it up yet. I do have the audiobook for it. I don't think I'm going to get it physically because I'm kind of out of having thrillers physically because I'll probably never reread them, honestly. But yeah, I do have the audiobook and I plan to pick it up for Summerween. Question 4 is my most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and this is so easy for me. It's Kingdom of the Feared by Carrie Maniscalco, which is book 3 in the Kingdom of the Wicked series. I freaking love the Kingdom of the Wicked series. I can't wait to reread those first 2 books in anticipation for Kingdom of the Feared. I'm so excited. Amelia and Raph. Oh my god, I just love it. And Kingdom of the Cursed was so phenomenal. When I finished it, there's some video out there where I just like raved about it for like 10 straight minutes. It's so good. I cannot wait for that one. It is definitely my most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Question 5 is your biggest disappointment for this year, and unfortunately I have a few of those. So my very biggest, number one biggest disappointment, for sure gonna make my biggest disappointing books of 2022, is unfortunately City of Gods and Monsters by Kayla Edwards. I did a whole spoiler-free reading vlog of this where I buddy read it with my good friend Rachel over at Raven-Haired Reader. We were so hyped for this book. We heard so many amazing things. Tons of people were giving it 5 stars. And it's an urban fantasy, which sounds very similar to the Crescent City series, which is like one of our favorite books. And so Rachel and I were just so hyped for it. We were convinced that this book would be like in our top 5 of 2022. And it really wasn't. There were some things that I did like about this book, but there was so much that I didn't like about it that it just overshadowed the things I liked. I did really like this world. I thought that the vibes of this world were what I was looking for, like with that Crescent City vibe. But there were like almost too many similarities to Sarah J. Maas's books, where there were names, there were certain references, certain creatures that were literally exactly the same from Sarah J. Maas's books. And I'm not saying that she like created everything in her books, but it felt like this was fanfic originally of just like all of Sarah J. Maas's books. And there is one specific scene that I swear to God was like just straight up plagiarized. Like she took that scene from A Court of Mist and Fury, plopped it into this world, changed the names around, and there you go. Like it wasn't even trying to hide the fact that it was a straight up carbon copy. So that was a little frustrating, but also the main character in this book, who we are in her point of view for the majority of the book, Lauren, was so annoying. She's so dumb. I hated Lauren. Literally, I was like, maybe she'll get better. She's kind of a bland, boring character at the beginning, and I'm like, there's still hope. There's still hope. And I kept telling myself, like, you know, she's not so bad. And I just, like, by the time I got halfway, I was like, what the heck? What is her point of being in this book? Like, she's so useless. She doesn't do anything. Her point of view is literally just to watch everyone else do all the things and watch everything play out. And she's just there. So yeah, needless to say, I was very disappointed in this book. I will not be continuing on with the series. It didn't make my top 5. It will make my top 5 most disappointing books. Such a letdown. And then my other biggest disappointment was Finlay Donovan is Killing It by El Casamano. I have just heard so many people rave about this book, give it 5 stars, say it's their favorite book of all time, and they just love it so much. So I was expecting to at least like it, and it is just not for me. I thought Finlay was so annoying and dumb, and some of the situations that she got herself into were so unrealistic and ridiculous that I just couldn't get behind it. I just wanted to chuck the book across the room. I was so mad at it, and yeah, I was just so disappointed by that one. The next question is the biggest surprise so far this year, and I have 2 for this one because I was thoroughly surprised by these. The first one I'm going to talk about is definitely the most surprising, and that is the Mindfuck series by St. Abbey. This is a series of 5 like kind of novellas. They're all less than 200 pages. Some of them are less than 100 pages. But basically it's like Criminal Minds meets Dexter. So the main character is a serial killer, and she is like out for revenge. She's killing all these people, and then she meets this nice guy who turns out to be the FBI agent who's investigating her case. And they obviously don't know that about each other. She finds out quickly on that he is like an FBI agent and he's investigating this case about a serial killer, and she's like, oh, weird, that's so weird. And it's pitched kind of as like a romance between them, but honestly, that is not even what this is about. It's totally about her story and her getting her revenge, and it's just like a straight up good for her series. I loved this so much. I did not intend to pick this up because honestly, the covers for it really threw me off. The covers, like the ebook covers, are terrible. This cover, not so bad. It looks like a kind of demented Twilight, but the other covers are just so bad that I was like, whatever, I don't really have any interest in reading it. And I was watching a live show, I think it was on Gabby's channel, and Mikay was talking about it, and he was like, yeah, it's really, really good. I'm surprised by it. And on those sprints, I was like, I'll try the first book. It's like 96 pages or whatever, so I'll give it a shot. And I was sucked in so fast, and I binged this in the next like 2 days. I binged the whole thing because it was just so good. And yeah, I was so surprised by this because I went into it going like, I'll give it a shot. I can always DNF it if I don't like it. And then I ended up loving it. So definitely a big surprise. And then the other big surprise is the Veronica Speedwell mystery series by Deanna Raybourn. So I have read all of these books in the beginning of this year. I've read every book in the series that is currently out, and I just loved it. I'm not a big historical fiction person, so I was like hearing all these good things about it, and I was like, I'll give it a shot. And I just absolutely loved it. I love Veronica. I love Stoker. It was just a big surprise to me that I would want to pick up historical fiction when my reading mood is like exclusively fantasy and fantasy romance right now. But this one, so good. Question 7 is a new favorite author, and for that I am going to go with Raven Kennedy, who wrote the Plated Prisoner series. I have read the first 3 books, and I really, really like them. I wouldn't say this series is like a 5-star favorite for me, but it's definitely a really good, solid fantasy romance series. A little bit less on the romance aspect of it, honestly. Like the first 2 books don't really have any romance in it at all. But I really liked the writing style in this, and I really like Oren as the main character, and so I would say Raven Kennedy is a new favorite author for me. Question 8 is your newest fictional crush, and I always feel weird answering this question because, like, I'm not necessarily crushing on these characters, but, like, I love them, like, so much that I want them to be with who they're supposed to be with in the books. So I'm just gonna say, like, somebody who I think is, like, adorable, not necessarily like I crush on them. If they were a real person, I'd want to like be with them, but definitely like just so adorable. Like if they were dolls, I'd be like, now kiss. I hope that makes sense. But for that, my newest like fictional crush is Stoker from the Veronica Speedwell mystery series. Oh, I just love Stoker so much. He is just a little sweet bean. I love him. I love him. I love him. And his interactions with Veronica are like my favorite thing. They're just so funny together, and he has so many like great, like almost like poetic lyrical lines that he says, and I've dog-eared some of these pages in these books because I just love him. He is just like the sweetest little cinnamon roll. And yeah, that's who I'm going with for this answer. Question 9 is your newest favorite character, and for this I have 2 besides Stoker and Veronica. So first up is going to be none other than Rune Dannon, the Crown Prince of the Valbaran Fae. Now, I liked Rune in the first Crescent City book. I liked him, but in this book, for sure, he is my favorite character in the series. Like, even over Bryce. I love Bryce, but Rune, if anything happens to sweet baby Rune, I will riot in the streets. He definitely gets more of like more point of view chapters in this book, and so we really get to know him a lot better in this book. But yeah, he just went to the very top of my favorite characters in this series, one of my favorite characters of all time. And then my other new favorite character is Tori Vega. I love both of the twins, but Tori, I just love her like extra. I just love how like snarky and sarcastic she is, and she's like such a badass that I'm just like, man, what would it be like to be your friend? I would love that. So definitely Tori Vega. Number 10, book that made you cry. So I know I said I was going to try not to reuse the same books over and over, but I've got to be honest with myself. House of Sky and Breath made me cry. Definitely towards the end, I was really having a hard time. I'm glad that I had the audiobook so that I could still like have the story without necessarily needing to use my eyes because they were so tear-filled. But yeah, definitely cried at this one. Pretty much all of my rereads of Sarah J. Maas books I have cried at, like almost every single one. I think I've even teared up in like ones that aren't necessarily specifically sad. Like Throne of Glass doesn't have any like overly traumatizing sad scenes, but it just made me feel like so nostalgic and like so grateful for the series that I was like tearing up. I'm like tearing up a little bit talking about it now because I'm just so happy that that series exists. And then also the Zodiac Academy, The Awakening, as told by the boys. This is the first book written in the boys' perspective. I'm not sure if I was just in a really emotional state at the time, or if it was necessarily being in the boys' perspective, or just like seeing these scenes play out again. I don't know what it was, but I was bawling my eyes out. I have a video of me just like straight up crying, and I did not take a break after I finished this to film my update for that vlog. So I was like literally trying to collect myself and like hyperventilating from my tears. So I probably should have calmed myself down a little bit and then filmed my update, but that's not what happened. So question 11 is a book that made you happy, and I have to shout out again all of my rereads that I've done, all of my Sarah J. Maas rereads. They just make me so happy, even if the content is sometimes, like I said, traumatizing. I'm just so happy that those books exist and that I read them. Like, I can't imagine not having read them, which is also something that kind of freaks me out. Like, what if there's a book out there that I would love just as much, or maybe even more, that I just haven't read yet? Talk about freakout. Anyways, another book that made me happy, or a book series that makes me happy, is the Veronica Speedwell mystery series. Again, I know I said that I was going to try to not reuse books, but it's true. This makes me so happy, especially this last book, An Impossible Imposter. I read this on the train to Oxford when I was in London, and sitting across from Casey, and she's reading like her book on her phone, and I had happy tears. So this is another one that made me cry, but I had happy tears because of the like beautiful things that were said, and the situations were so freaking sweet, and I was crying happy tears on the train. Question 12 is the most beautiful book that you have bought or received this year, and I have two, and they were both bought at the London Waterstones in Piccadilly. So the first one, I knew that I was going to pick this one up because I like this cover so much better than the US edition, and that is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O. How was this not the most beautiful book that I've bought or received this year? Like, look at it. The color blue is like one of my favorite colors, that like aquamarine blue. And just like, oh, I just could stare at this all day. It's so pretty. A work of art. And then the other one is also the UK edition of a book because I liked this cover better. The US cover is still really pretty, but this cover is just so stunning. And that is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sulin Tan. Just like the pink peonies, the gold foiling that's on it, this like almost navy blue color that's in the background. I just love this color combination. It's just so stunning. And when I was in Waterstones, I wasn't originally going to buy this. Like, I picked it up and looked at it, I'm like, oh my god, it's so pretty. And then I started walking around and I'm like, I'm not really gonna leave that here, am I? Like, I have to take it home. So yeah, it's just, oh, it's so pretty. And then finally, question 13 is, what books do you have to read before the end of the year? So I really need to pick up Falls Boys by Penelope Douglas. I love Penelope Douglas. This is one of the only books that she's written and published that I haven't read yet. This one and Misconduct. I really want to read both of those so I can just have read her whole backlist, but I'm so excited for this one. I want to try to pick it up in July, but if I can't get to it in July, I'll pick it up in August for sure. But this is a bad girl, good boy romance, and I haven't read a lot of those, and I love that idea, so I'm really excited to pick this one up. I can't remember when it came out. This year sometime, but when? Oh, it doesn't say. Anyways, it came out sometime this year. But I also love that Penelope Douglas includes like a playlist for all her books. Like sometimes specifically like mentions songs that are playing during certain scenes, and I just love that. So yeah, I definitely need to get to this one. I also really need to pick up The War of Two Queens by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is book 4 in the Blood and Ash series, and I really like that series. I don't know, I'm like freaking myself out that like maybe I won't like it because it got so many mixed reviews, but I do think that I will like this. I just need to like get the guts to pick it up. Again, I'm hoping to pick it up in July. If I don't pick it up in July, I'll pick it up in August. But yeah, I really need to get to this one and stop putting it off. And then I also really want to read the Twisted series by Anna Huang. So the first book being Twisted Love. My friends are reading it and they're loving it, and they're like, Hannah, you have to pick it up. And I'm like, I know, I need to pick it up. So that one I definitely want to get to before the end of the year, hopefully sooner rather than later. And then I also really need to pick up Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I read and loved Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation. They're some of my favorite romance books that I've ever read, and this one is specifically about like book people, so I cannot wait to read this one. I'm taking this with me on vacation like this next week, so hopefully I can read it then. Like I'm leaving tomorrow and I want this to be one of the first books that I read. But yeah, I just need to get to it and stop putting it off. I just haven't been in a contemporary romance mood, so I want to pick this up very soon. So that is the mid-year book freakout tag. I definitely have read a lot of amazing books this year. I have a lot of exciting books to read for the second half of the year, and it's just been a good reading year so far. I know I was talking to Ashley about like how many 5-star reads I've had so far this year, including my rereads, but still, like, I have a lot. I think I have over 20. So it's been a great reading year so far for me, and hopefully it just continues to be that way. I think I really know my reading taste well, that most of the books that I'm picking up I really like and even love. So hopefully that continues. But if you made it to the end of this video, we gotta leave the classic, like, scared emoji with like the blue, you know what I'm talking about. Leave that emoji down in the comments down below. Don't forget to click like and subscribe down below to help support my channel. I also have my Goodreads link down below if you want to follow me on there, and my Instagram, where I post pretty regularly in my stories. I try to do like bookish posts also, but I mostly post in my stories, so please go follow me on there if you want to see more updates and stuff like that from me. And thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye!